Yo, what is up, guys? And we're back here with another video. I'm off a Red Bull right now, so I'm super hyped. Got a lot of energy pumping through my veins.
I think they can see that.
But today's one of the more important videos that we will be filming, and these are all lessons that we learned the super hard way around the topic of being able to find business partners / co-founders along with co-workers. You don't necessarily need to be a business owners to be able to apply these rules. Now, we have the 3 pillars if you want to name them real quick.
Yeah, so pretty much when you go into business, there's really 3 pillars that you really need to run a business. There's finance, there's marketing and sales, and there's operations. I mean, there's also stuff like legal, but that's not really, I don't really consider that part of building a business super important, at least in the startup phase. But yeah, essentially when you're starting a business, you want to have one of these 3 pillars, and you really want to try people that fulfill the other 2 pillars that you're missing. Or if you can carry the weight, of 2 pillars, you want to be able to find the last person that, the person that has the last pillar that can really carry you to the finish line.
Now, kind of like the way that I like to compare a good business partnership to, and some of you guys may disagree, but is a relationship / marriage. Now, bro, you're my boy. Don't get the wrong idea. But at the end of the day, we've been in business for a long time. At this point, we share bank accounts.
Yes.
We're constantly communicating in calls like what's the next step, what we're doing, working with our virtual assistants / employees. And we're kind of like an everyday part of each other's lives. And there just needs to be full-on transparency. There can't be any ego, because that's how company culture will be ruined.
Yeah, I guess as you could say, just starting off the bat, I think the main thing you should look out for when you're getting a business partner is you have to watch out for people that have a huge ego. Because as we know through personal experience, and we've brought people on that destroyed the company or destroyed cohesion. How we do things just by the pure ego. As you probably know, like people with big egos that tend to get in the way of growth, and it tends to cloud their judgment and make them put decisions that make them look good over the benefit of the company. Yeah. So I think that's one of the most important things to look out for.
And something super interesting is a lot of the times when I'm in a social type of setting and I'm talking to people, and more I'd say of like a networking event where you're kind of getting to know both sides, seeing what value one person can provide you, what you can provide to them. And there's always that one person that's super loud trying to dominate the conversation, and people are really good at selling themselves to others. Anyone can make themselves sound good,
especially at those like networking conferences. I hate those, dude. I hate those.
Of course, like that's their whole plan. But then when it actually comes to executing inside the business, it's kind of like what you told me is not matching up with what is actually happening. And this is what happens a lot. People, you need to look at someone's track record, not what they are saying. And this is a big mistake we made early on. Now, one of the big ways of spotting this and kind of seeing if someone is legit is when you're actually partnering up with them. Finances are a super important thing. You want it to be side by side if you want to go into that a bit.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So when you start a business, when you're bringing other people, you want to make sure, they're in for it. They have the money. Right. Because a lot of the times we've had through personal experience, we've been, we started a business with somebody. We're like, okay, let's invest in this. Let's move on this. And me and Mitch are ready to go. And the last person's like, I don't have that money. And that's one of the most aggravating things to ever deal with. So a lot of times before you start a business with someone, you have to get a little bit personal. Say like, I need to know, is your full focus on the business, and do you have the money to go in on investments in order to grow the business? Yeah. Because a lot of the times, which it's happened, I think it's happened more than once with us, for sure, with more than one business partner, is we decided to partner up with somebody, and one of the first deals we've ever done, we're like, hey, can you, front some money for advertising, for marketing, for hiring this person? And, they're like, oh, I don't have that. So, I mean, that's one of the things also about being young and, trying to find people. A lot of people don't have money at our age.
And something that literally makes zero sense to me is think about it this way. Say person A has $100,000 in their bank account liquid to invest into some sort of venture. The other person comes off all big, like I can do this, I could do that, I'm good at this. Come the time they need to make a certain business investment, and in reality, that other person only has $5,000 in the bank account versus you who has, say, 6 figures. That's not going to play out well at all.
Yeah, and especially in those situations, there needs to be some sort of way you can balance things out, whether you agree that one person does almost all the workload or most of the workload, or if, the other person gets a little more equity. I think people really have to have that off the bat. A lot of the times when you're determining company equity, a lot of the times what actually ends up happening is these people that, don't have any money, nobody really realizes it. In reality, those people should be getting less equity if their skills aren't, insanely high.
Exactly. And one example that I could just relate to personally that happened with us is whenever we have business expenses, we're big about credit. We use credit for literally everything. We never ever use cash. And whenever we make cover certain business expenses, investments, we always leverage credit for that. And then obviously pay everything off on time. When it comes to paying it off on time, we like to split everything 3 ways. And us two are good for it. We hit up the other person, payments due by this time. Are you able to send it in? Nope, I'm not able to do that. And then you got yourself in a little situation where we got to use our own money to cover that person. And they'll be like, oh, I'll pay you by this time. And it just becomes a huge red flag. You instantly lose trust for the person, ruins company culture with them, and that partnership is pretty much dead.
Yeah, and I think another mistake people often make, when they first look for business partners, when they're looking for business partners, I think people need to recognize when they need to bring somebody on as a co-founder and, as a partner, and, have someone who actually holds equity, and, when they have to, bring someone on and they just really need an employee. Because I think a lot of the mistakes people make when they're first starting out is they think that the solution is, keep bringing on more co-founders, keep giving people more equity, when a lot of times the actual solution is, just hire people out. Even though it's more of an upfront cost and, it's more dollar-wise, it's going to save them a lot more money in the long term. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes average people make.
And a lot of it kind of comes down to what the business is and what skill set you are missing. So again, say there's a business full of 3 people. Let's just say us 2. I'm good with marketing and sales. You're someone that enjoys doing legal work, back-end stuff such as finances.
Yep.
Say we want to build say we want to build some sort of software. We don't have the coding skills required to build one. We want to bring a coder on. Now, this is where you kind of decide, do you pay him hourly? Do you give equity away? Or do you pay one big fee? And that is where a lot of people get stuck, being able to choose what to do with their business.
I mean, I think tech's a little bit different. I have some experience coding, and I've kind of dipped my hand in that little cookie pot. But I think, like you said, a lot of the time, based off what I've heard, is tech is really, really different compared to what we do. What you guys, some of you guys may or may not know, but Mitch and I are working on a little bit of a tech company in the background. Probably won't launch for a while. This is actually something that Mitch and I are actually just starting to get into too as well. And we're trying to venture into tech and bring this knowledge over and seeing how it goes. I think a lot of it will apply. But I think stuff like hiring professional coaches, I think that's going to be a little bit of a struggle for us personally.
Because personally, I'm someone that likes to double down on a skill. So say, for example, you're really good at soccer and you see a career in that. Why go ahead and try to learn basketball? So the way I view things is kind of learn your skill, try a bunch of different things, see what you enjoy, see what you're naturally good at, stick to that. And then when it comes to the business, find someone that compensates for your weaknesses and stick to your strengths. That way you're not able to have, say for example, I'm good at marketing. Why would I bring some sort of other marketer on when what I'm not good at, say, is coding? Rather give away equity or pay hourly to them.
Yeah, I think another theme we should probably touch on is, we've learned this personally, is don't have more than one person do the same exact job, unless it's sales. That's a little bit different. But I mean, we've kind of seen this firsthand. We've added people that have been marketers, or that we want to be on the marketing pillar of things, and it didn't go so well because you would clash with them, they would clash with you, and you guys are pretty much doing the same thing. So I think a lot of people have to realize is you shouldn't really be hiring people to the same exact function, because that ends up people clashing heads and it just ruins culture, quite frankly. I mean, sales is a little bit of a different environment because, sales people are pretty fun people. Their objective is, to sell and, grow the company. But that's fine if, salespeople are competing, because, it kind of makes it more competitive, more of a game. But yeah.
And kind of going off that, obviously, with sales, a lot of sales jobs are commission-based. You're not really working with a salesperson side by side. You'll kind of want to get your own customer, get that commission, get multiple commissions, call it a day. And yeah, kind of going off that, we've kind of dealt with a lot of people in which we've had conflicting personalities with. And again, it just comes down to ego. Like, for example, you and I, Emiliano and I, for those, we probably mentioned it in a previous video, but we've known each other for 10 years. So way before we got into business, we were kind of playing basketball, video games, kind of built up that friendship, and all ego aside, everything, no competition. We kind of work together, keep everything transparent. But when you bring on someone new that you don't really have that close of a bond with, that's when you kind of get to the point of wanting to one-up one another. And that kind of ruins the teamwork. You instantly lose trust. And the second there's some sort of tension, partnership's going to clash. You guys aren't going to make money. You're no longer going to be happy. You want to be able to look forward to meeting with your team, working, solving problems. But you know that feeling? We've had that feeling.
Yeah, we have had that feeling.
You constantly dread just having to talk to that one person.
Yes.
And I just remember this one story where we have cut business partners off, and there was this one specific time where you need to be you want to explain because you need to be really careful with how you choose to cut a partnership off.
Yeah, so we had a couple bad experiences, where we would end a partnership, respectfully, and then someone, like go and like drain the bank account, which, luckily we have precautions to make sure that it wasn't that bad. We've had a lot of instances where, they just really ended on bad terms. And I think it's really important, if you're if something's not working, you should be fully transparent and, obviously no way say anything offensive. I know personally, we have personally never said anything, that's like hugely impacted someone's, how someone's felt. But I think it's important in a partnership, if something isn't working, you have to be just really, really, really straightforward, or it's going to ruin how things go, dissolving a company, or, even if you decide to move forward. Because sometimes if things aren't working out and you can't really express yourself transparently and without ego, what ends up happening is, all future with that person is just gone. It's just over.
And that's kind of the world that we're living in today, where people are so used to receiving positive praise. They receive so much of it that when it comes to receiving critical feedback,
they get defense. They go with full on defense, everything.
Exactly. And that's kind of something that we weren't able to spot in the early stages. Now we are. And kind of going forward, we've come to realize that it's not about what the person says. It's show us your resume, show us your track record, show us what you've done before. If you want to work with us, work together, partner up on something, you want to see proof of concept that they were able to build something with, instead of just believing what they have to say. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of people, not to sound cliche, but a lot of people talk, but not a lot of people walk the walk in business, and you really have to watch out for what people have done compared to what they say they've done. I think that's enough of the negatives. I think we should talk about why you and I work together so well, and what to look for.
Exactly. So, as you guys know, I'm more on the sales and marketing side. Emiliano likes doing more back-end work, such as legalities, finance.
I love my finance.
All that stuff. I don't enjoy any of that stuff. So that's kind of a perfect compensation for
and then
one another's skill.
The three pillars wise, he kind of takes over marketing and sales. I take over finance. Then we both kind of share operations, and we hire employees to manage that specifically.
And also, one important rule when choosing a business partner is think of someone. If you're going to partner up with them something, and just think, would you want to go on vacation with them?
I 100% agree with that.
Because we've traveled together, and obviously it's always a good time. Yep. There are certain people that we've traveled with before, and we're like, oh, it didn't go as planned.
Yeah, so. I think the moral of the story is if you can't travel with someone for like a couple of days, I don't think you guys should be working together and trying to grow a business together. I think it just won't end well.
Exactly, and just kind of think about the biggest companies and how they treat their employees. For example, working at Google, everyone loves it there. They get buffets, massages. They get like
I've heard some crazy shit about
ridiculous. Google. And everyone's kind of able to speak with one another, no barriers. While certain businesses that don't work out, again, there's like, for example, in GoPro.
Yeah,
I remember researching a lot about GoPro. First off, nepotism was a problem.
Oh, dude, that was one of the only stocks that ever lost me money. I took a big hit on that one, dude.
And the business itself was shaped more like a pyramid, where the person at the top was telling everyone what to do instead of it being much more decentralized.
Yep.
And everyone just kind of knowing. Like, for example, Emiliano and I, yes, we communicate a lot with what we're supposed to do, but at the end of the day, we also know what we're supposed to do, and we kind of do it without us having to constantly talk. So when we meet up, it's like, you did this, yeah, you did that, yeah.
And it just if one of us isn't pulling our weight, we tell each other that, like, yo, Mitch, I need you to do this, you didn't do that, I need you, I need to get on your shit.
And again, going back to critical feedback, we're kind of able to tell each other anything. Literally, zero barriers. We don't take anything personally, and that's kind of what I think shapes up the partnership to working really smoothly.
So there's a huge, debate on, do you need to be friends with people you're in business with, or where do you fall on that?
Yes and no, but I believe, this is where it gets complicated. Each business is a different size.
Yeah.
So say, for example, there's a business that has hundreds of people, right?
You don't need to know everybody.
You don't need to know everybody. No, you're able to find a person to manage this group, a person to manage that group, and they're kind of doing their job. Because at the end of the day, not everyone wants to own a business. So say, for example, you hire a CFO. You don't necessarily, you want to be on good terms with them. You want to trust them, make sure they're not going to screw you over, because there have been many instances in a business where one co-founder or someone who's at the top of the business would screw someone over. So I'd say, yes, you need to be fairly close. You need to at least trust them. But when it comes to starting a business from complete scratch, just you and one other person, maybe three people all together, yes, you need to be super tight with them.
I agree. I think the larger the company, the less you really need to know someone personally. But I think if you are starting a company from scratch, like you and me have done with, multiple companies, I think you do need to have a connection with the person, or at least, be able to be decent friends with them. Like how I would think about it is if you went to a friend's place, this person showed up, would you be able to hang out with them for like 5 hours straight? That's what I like to think about it.
And just taking into account how hard it is to start a business from scratch and grow to the point of even 5-10K per month, it's a lot of hard work. And if you don't enjoy like who you're working with and you constantly
What's gonna be hell?
talking to them, that you're constantly, sometimes you think of something, you're like, I want to say this to this person, but in your head you're like, nah, I feel like they'll take it personally. You don't want to have that thought.
Oh, you
Whatever
can't have
comes
that
to your
thought.
mind, you want to be able to say it to that person exactly how it comes up in your mind, without being worried, oh, they're going to take it personally. Oh, they're going to react this way. Oh, they'll go behind my back, maybe screw me over some way, somehow. No,
Yep.
you want to be able to say it to them knowing that you guys have full trust in each other. And that is a rare quality to have, because at the end of the day, if you have some sort of ego issue, some power dynamic issue, and you just don't work well with people, start your own business. Just be a lone wolf. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we know a couple people that have their own operations, pretty much do everything.
I know
and
people
they're
that have
perfectly
cut,
fine.
I know people that have cut everyone off, kind of locked themselves up in a room, and they're just working on their own business, which is completely fine.
Yep.
To each their own. I personally like working with others simply because
Accountability, mainly.
accountability, compensation of skills.
Yep.
And just in general, it's just more fun if you're super tight with a group of people. You guys are building a business. It's doing numbers. You guys are all able to spend time together and travel. You just makes for a completely different life experience. Exactly. You want to have fun with it.
Yeah, I think there's a completely different dynamic, trying to grow something yourself. As I was talking about, like I did business a little bit before you kind of hopped in. I had a couple Shopify, and I have to say it was way, way harder, and there was way less accountability. I 100% agree with what you said.
So yeah, but that pretty much covers a lot of what we wanted to go over. I'd say the main thing is knowing how to read people. That's one of the most important skills I'd say I've learned in the past few years, reading people, because I know how to sense people's energy, their true intentions, and we're kind of easily able to tell who's a talker versus who's an actual doer.
Yep.
It's really not that hard. Again, power dynamic issues, those are huge. Now, something that I also wanted to mention, there's a big difference between business and friends. At the end of the day, if someone, like for example, Emiliano and I, we didn't really need to convince each other. We kind of just naturally liked the whole process of starting a business, growing it. But say for example, I was entrepreneurially minded, to pronounce that better, but Emiliano wasn't. I'm good friends with him, but never force someone that's not business minded to get into business just because they're your friend.
I 100% agree with that. I think we've seen it personally with some people trying to convince their friends, like, hey, I need you, you want to do this with me, and then the person tries it out, and they're like, the other person kind of gets salty when they realize that person isn't really not, an entrepreneur or entrepreneur minded.
Say you're ready to put in 10-15 hours a day of work every single day just because you want to. The person will put in 2 to 3 hours a day, call it a day. That's going to be unfair to you. You guys are going to get into argument. A friendship could be ruined over that for no reason. So there's just too much downside to risk. So never force someone close to you to get into business just because they're friends with you. No, you want to see that actual passion inside of them.
Yeah. I think we should also touch on, something that's nice, not always required, but, with you and me, I kind of hate doing what you're good at and vice versa. I mean, for instance, I don't really like marketing and sales. I really hate being on the phone, really hate, like closing, shit like that. Or I really hate like marketing, sometimes running ad campaigns. I'm not really a huge fan of like copyright and all that stuff. But that's, is more especially, and, on your side, you kind of hate doing the financials, you hate doing the accounting, you hate, managing all the lines of credit, you hate managing the bank transfers. That's something that I just love doing. Or like you hate managing productions, financial reports, and that's, that's my shit.
Also, something super important is, while I do not enjoy necessarily what Emiliano is good at, it's something that you need to still know. It's something, what Emiliano does, I still understand how to do it. Obviously, he could do it way better, but you still want to understand how to do what your other teammates are doing. I remember you told me you don't need to necessarily write the best-selling book. You just need to be able to read it. So that's, for example, how I view finances. I want to be able to look at the balance sheets, the income statements. I want to be able to understand them, especially come tax season. I want to understand how all that works, because when I look through it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. You just understand the whole process.
You need to be able to make sure, you need to have enough experience to make sure what the other person's doing is quality. For instance, like I said, like I really hate doing, the marketing and sales side, but I understand how it all works, and I can recognize good work when I see it, and vice versa. My finance, shit like that. You just don't like doing it, and you may not be as good as me, but you recognize good work when you see it, and vice versa.
Exactly. It's just the idea of being open-minded, despite me being good at this and not wanting to get good at that. You need to put your ego aside and learn what you're not good at. You
Yep.
don't need to be great at it, but understand it.
Yeah.
So like for example, similarly with code, if you don't want to learn code, learn how to read it. It's going to make a complete, because for example, when someone that doesn't know code and someone that does know code are talking with one another on building a business, in a sense they're both speaking a completely different language.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's something that needs to be fixed if they're going to be working together.
Yeah, I know that's why I've been really touching up on, learning more. I know like Python, some basic stuff like that. But that's, why I've been trying to expand my whole coding knowledge, is so when you and me are planning final launches, and, we probably bring someone on that's more of like a technical like coder guy, I can be able to understand, like, is their work good? What are they doing that's cool? What could be improved? Stuff like that, is having a basic understanding.
Exactly. So yeah, that pretty much sums up a lot of what we wanted to go over. And as I mentioned earlier, you don't need to be a business owner necessarily to be following all this advice and value in general, but you could be someone that just got a new job. You're kind of trying to, and like a lot of jobs in the corporate world today, it's all team based. You're constantly working with other people. It could be a group of 10 people and there's one person that's kind of like micromanaging everyone. A lot of the rest of the team secretly doesn't like that one person. They're not going to tell the boss, and that a lot of problems arise. So being able to learn those skills to kind of excel in a setting of a team inside a business that's trying to grow, it's going to be super hit or miss on how much time you actually dedicate to learning that psychology, learning through your own experiences.
I would say a lot of the stuff is actually I would say most of the stuff is actually really, really applicable to, company culture more than just solely, finding co-founder or business partner. I think a lot of what makes a good founder or business partner is actually the culture, and that, you can take that and you can also apply it to, like actual business organizations, or even if you're not an entrepreneur, you can apply it to your own workspace.
Exactly. So yeah, we hope that you guys could take this advice that we kind of went through. And again, we haven't fully learned team psychology, team dynamics. We're only 19 years old. We're still going off our own experiences, still learning. But that's kind of the fair share that we can give you guys over the past few years of us being able to start and grow businesses and team up with other people. And that's kind of our scent on that.
Yeah. See you next episode.
Take care.